Also, again, people don't use that, so we have similar homegrown platforms like Japan and other platforms as well. So again, as a lot of you also know, things change very fast in China. So between last year, this time, and this year, a lot of new players came into play already. But also, even within these existing players, a lot of changes has happened as well. So this year, although a lot of those platforms, they still exist, but users are increasingly concentrating their time and kind of consolidating. Some consolidations is going on across different platforms. So I would say this year, the main stars in terms of where people are spending, consumers are spending most of the time, are probably these three platforms. So Sina Weibo, so again, this is the company I'm from. So within the 4 Weibo platforms I mentioned earlier, we counted about 85% of the market in terms of time spent. So this is pretty much, I think, within Weibo, I think we're lucky enough to be the winner there. And in the online video platform space, Youku and Tudou announced a merger, an acquisition of actually Youku over Tudou last year. So they actually now, the 2 largest video platforms became one, although they still kind of go through the integration. So that, you see some consolidation there as well. And probably a lot of you guys have also heard of WeChat. I actually know people are using WeChat here. I'm not going to talk about them today. I don't know who they are, but apparently a lot of people use that. So anyway, so obviously this is a chatting online communication tool, and so it's gaining a lot of popularities there as well. So, but I think, when you look across these different social media platforms, and I think, if you put your consumer's hat on the side for a while and think about how do I use these things for business, I think that suddenly also becomes a different question. Because a lot of the social media platform, while they can be great consumer products, they don't necessarily always offer marketing value for brands. So I think that Sina Weibo still offers the most marketing potential for business. And so that's what I'm really interested in telling you more about today. So what is Sina Weibo? In case some of you don't quite know what Sina Weibo is, or you've heard of Sina Weibo, but you don't really know what it is. So before we really dive in, so I want to give you a really quick overview of what that is. So Sina Weibo started about 3 years ago as a Twitter-like microblogging platform. So pretty much all of you, I assume, know what Twitter is. But I think over the last 3 years, actually, the platform has evolved greatly. So now we have multiple platforms people can access that. So started off from the desktop version, still a lot of people use that, but now we have the mobile client and as well as the iPad on the pads. And the mobile, obviously, just like Facebook and other social media platforms, more and more people are using the mobile device to access the platform. About 72%, 72 to 75% of our users will access Weibo through mobile. Not necessarily exclusively. Some of them obviously will still use the desktop, but 72% of them actually will access through mobile. So a lot of third-party research companies, they have done a lot of published white papers and things like that, and they've called Sina Weibo as the most influential social media platform in China. So why is that? So I want to share some of the reasons with you, and Mark sort of stole my thunder a little bit by announcing the 500 million users. So that's the user count we released to the street at the end of last year. So again, that number is probably wrong already. As I'm standing here today, it's continued to grow because I remember the quarter before that, we had about 350 million. So over one quarter, we grew another 150 million users there. So over 500 million users right now on the platform, and they're actually spending a lot of time on the platform as well. So the active users, on average, they spend over 90 minutes per day accessing Weibo and talking to friends, discovering news, all that stuff. So what are they doing on the, within that 90 minutes? So obviously a lot of interactions, a lot of posts. So on every day, average, there's over 135 million posts that's being generated on Weibo through different devices, obviously. Now, second thing is, are these valuable customers? Are these valuable consumers? So we have a lot of people in China, as you know, 1.7 billion, and probably not every one of them is the target audience that you want to reach. So who are these consumers? So from a geographic location perspective, they're mostly from Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities. So if you know the kind of the China development, so we have different tiers of cities, I think Tier 1 through Tier 5 or 6. And the lower the tiers, the higher the, in terms of economic development, the more money consumers will have in these cities. So Tier 1, Tier 2 cities are the most developed cities in China. So again, so as you can see, most of the users are from those cities with the spending power. I know that in New Zealand that we try to position New Zealand as the premium luxury destination. You probably want to target these people who can afford the journey, who can afford the experience. And they're also quite young. So 92% of those people were born after 1980s. So as you can see the breakout here, as some of you know, I don't belong in that 92%. So, but don't ignore that 8% of the users on the platform. We like to come to New Zealand as well. So, so anyway, so these, but most of these users are fairly young, and they're not only young, they're also very well educated. So 56% of these users have bachelor degrees or above, right? So these are the people who, probably also like to travel and learn more about the world, and so that's another stat I want to share with you. So those slides, hopefully, I just share with you, give you a sense of what Weibo is, what kind of consumers and customers that platform provides, potentially for the business. So is that relevant for brands? So, right, because as I said earlier, I think a lot of the social media platforms now can become very popular among consumers, but not necessarily provides opportunities to brands. I think, to me, I think WeChat probably faces a similar challenge there, because if I'm having a very close conversation with my friend, what is the opportunity for brands to really insert yourself and talk to me? Because, so some of that, I think for brands, you need to start thinking about that. So maybe the next question I want to help you to address is, are all these things relevant for you, for brands? So let's look at some stats again. So this was a study done by Weibo and Beijing University, one of the leading universities in China last year. So 85% of the Chinese consumers, they actively discuss news events, products, and brands with others on Weibo. So again, they're not just talking about, oh, what did you eat last night, or what did you cook, or where did you go? They're actually actively talking about your brands. Maybe they're talking about, for large brands, they talk about the quality of your products, they talk about whether they like it or not. If they participate, if they came to New Zealand, they took some tours, they're likely to talk about that as well. So as you can see, it's, so this, a lot of conversations are brand and business related. And this is another study done by McKinsey. So 67% of the consumers, in terms of the buying decision, is not influenced by what you say as a brand. Rather, they're influenced by the word of mouth. So again, 67% of people, whether they decide to take your tour or not, whether they decide to come here or not, is not necessarily because they go to your account, your official account, and listen to you, but they also, again, through social media, and listen to what other people have said, other people have bought your stuff, and again, that word of mouth influenced their purchase decision. And 66% of the social media users follow brands. So we saw that earlier, 500 million users on Weibo. So over 2/3 of those people will follow brand. And on average, they follow 8 brands. So again, they not only follow a few, one or a couple, but they actually follow a lot of brands. And so they tend to want to hear from brands as well. So again, this is another way of looking at what we saw earlier in terms of these massive users from the top tier cities, the young and educated people, how much spending power they represent. So they represent 54% of the spending power among the Chinese consumers. And that equates to 800 billion RMB consumption each month. So obviously this is TRENZ, so I want to zoom in a little bit, take a closer look on the travel industry in terms of how Weibo is relevant for travel. So a lot of you probably have seen similar stats like this. Chinese tourists continue to, the tourism industry in general continues to grow in China. And if you break out between the domestic Chinese travel and outbound travel, as you can see, both portion will grow significantly. In terms of the number of trips, as you can see, is probably somewhere between 130 to 150% increase. And with the outbound travel actually increasing even faster than domestic travel. But when you look at the market value, so not only people are taking more trips, they're spending more money. So this is over 267% in terms of domestic travel, and almost 400% increase from 2010 to 2020 in terms of outbound travel. So again, the travel industry in general is growing very rapidly in China. And then when we look back onto the Weibo side, so all these people, a lot of them, they also show interest in travel. So 45.8 million travel organization fans. So what does that mean? That means when we count all the people who have followed travel-related business accounts on Weibo, so the unique users are almost 46 million users are following these travel-related accounts. And 21.6 million of the users on our Weibo platform tag themselves with interest in travel. So when you set up a Weibo account, there are those interest tags that you can tag yourself. So travel, again, obviously is one of the most popular one. People tag themselves. And there are 2.2 million travel influencers. So what I mean by that is these are the people who, just like bloggers and key opinion leaders, as you are probably accustomed to or know about that concept. So these are the people who actively talking about travel-related stuff. They also probably tend to have a lot of followers. So these are the people who can influence other people as well. So over 2 million of this kind of a travel influence exists on the Weibo platform. So when we look at conversation related to travel industry, so average daily posts is over 5 million, so within last year. So again, that's obviously a reflection of the stats that we saw earlier, because all these people are interested in travel. A lot of people are talking about that. So if you just zoom into the travel related conversation, that's a tremendous amount of conversation there as well. And if we further break that down, and these are all from one of the white papers that we did last year. So when we look at how people are talking or doing travel-related activities on the social media platform, on Weibo, at different stages within the travel, from planning to the actual trip, as you can see, these are some top activities what people do before travel. So pretty obvious, but they search for the routes, tips, strategies. So 85% of the survey respondents, they would say they do that, right? So if you go down the list, you can see a lot of other common activities such as search destination information, travel reviews, hotels, airline deals, request information from the travel organization. So again, this is where when you have the Weibo account on there, people are not only reading what you do, they will also at you and actively, and they may be asking questions. So brands, not only you just look at, not only remember this is a dialogue, all right? So it's not just you say what you want to say. People are talking to you. You need to respond as well, because people are requesting information and asking questions about that. Linking with travel buddies, although only 22%, but I think that's actually pretty Chinese unique characteristics as well. So when I moved back to China, and a lot of times people are traveling with strangers to different places. Now, strangers, in a sense, they probably don't know each other earlier, but through the social network, different portals and things like that, they found that they have similar common interests in terms of where they want to go, what kind of trips that they like, and they will form a team, and they will form a group, and they will go to different places. So again, this is very social behavior as well in terms of how people are planning their trips. And also we saw that travel influencers, there are a lot of them, and they also will be requested information from others, because these are the people who really know a lot about travel. So as you can see, a lot of these activities, people are doing all these activities prior to their actual trip when they plan. So a lot of the activities already started on their social media platform. And then when we move into during the trip, as you can see, again, people are glued to the social media platform even when they're on the road, and they post the travel pictures. travel emotions. They're happy and whatever. They check into different places, with fans and other people requesting for information again, or complaints. So if they had a bad experience, they want to voice that immediately. With tourism boards and travel. So again, as you can see, posting the travel pictures is 90% of the tourists would like to do that. So I have a little story to tell you. So one of the complaints that I've been made most during this trip in New Zealand is I've been complaining to people that you don't have enough Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi spots in New Zealand. So, and it's a frustrating experience for me and for a lot of, I think, international travelers, because I have a lot of pictures and I can't share that with my friends at the moment when I take them, because I really do want to share with my friends. The happy ending for that story is, so I'm staying at the Sky City, and I think one night over dinner I was talking to the GM of the Sky City, and they told me yesterday they started offering free Wi-Fi in the hotel, actually without the login process, without the login step. Now before they technically offer the free Wi-Fi as well, but you have to log in and it gets disconnected all the time. But yesterday when I walk into the hotel, it's automatically log in. I don't have to log in again. And that was just that one simple little improvement. But honestly, I think the impact on me, as a tourist, you feel great because you're connected and you can do these things as what tourists want to do. So this is where I think, just the reason I want to tell that story is just hopefully give you something to think about in terms of when we have these consumer insights, these are what people want to do. What can you do as a tourism industry to provide that better service, for consumers, because they're not there just to, on their own as individuals to experience. They also want to share that. So I think anything that you can do around that to help the tourists to really enjoy their trip and also to share that experience, I think not only make them happy, because the social media power, as you know, they are being your brand ambassador at that moment because they are sharing their experience with their friends. So again, just think about that for a second, if you will. So, again, that was during the trip. So after the trip, so, again, these are probably pretty common. This a lot of you guys will do anyway. So this is where you put together the photo collage, and then you write reviews, you consolidate different issues. So again, so obviously that whole travel experience, the whole social experience continues even after the trip ends. So again, up to this point, hopefully you have no doubts why social media is such a phenomenon in China. Hopefully you know that the platform, the Sina Weibo platform, really has a lot of those target audience that you want to reach, and it's relevant for travel. So I think maybe the next question that you would like to have some answers, some thoughts for, is how do you actually use this? So how can brands really realize the value among these potential customers and on this platform? So a lot of brands have started testing things on social media, obviously, and also in China. So a lot of brands, as I said, Weibo started about 3 years ago, and probably, almost 2.5 or 2 years ago, we start seeing more and more brands are testing in terms of what they can do on Weibo. So the end of last quarter, so when we counted the unique fans on, the unique users on Weibo who are following brands, so there's around 300 million unique users following different brands. And the brands, mostly what they're doing, just like most of you, if you do run social media strategies in New Zealand or other parts of the world, most of it's through conversation, right? So again, this is where we feel that this is a platform. Brands can start dialogues, can start a conversation. They can also have the ongoing dialogue with consumers. So as you can see some of the stats, that's exactly what brands have been doing already. So on average, brands post 400,000 posts every day. So this is 400,000 conversations, 400,000 they initiate, they talking to the consumers. So those conversations, because of the viral nature of the platform, obviously reach a lot of audience. So we calculate that's roughly about 3.6 billion impressions in terms of how many times people see these brand messages. But I think today, although I think that's a very important part of what brands need to do and what they have been doing, but the message mainly that I want to tell you today is I don't think that's enough. I think conversation dialogues are good, and that's a huge step from the old traditional advertising already, because we started to say, oh, it's a dialogue, and that we can talk to the consumers, we can hear them, we can respond to them. But I still think that's social media 1.0. I think what we need to move into is what I think is more about the 2.0 stage. So what do you do go beyond talking? How do you actually do the action on the social media platform? So I think two concepts I want to share with you guys. So I think the first concept what I want to share is what I call it turning fans into BFFs. So I think hopefully more and more later on we'll tell your board or tell your management not in terms of how many fans that we have and how many actually BFFs that you have. So what do I mean by here? So again, fans is the first step, but BFF, just like all of you know, probably stands for best friends forever, but you can say best fans forever as well. So I think that's can use both ways. Is because what I mean by here is just because they follow you today or they follow you a month ago does not necessarily mean they're still there and actively listen to you and actively engage with you. So only when you turn them into BFFs, so those are loyal fans, those are loyal customers. They will always want to hear from you. They'll always want to engage with you. They probably will come back to New Zealand again, right? So if they just sign up today, they say, oh yeah, New Zealand, maybe it's fun, and I follow this brand, but they don't want to hear from you again. They don't really create a lot of value for you. But if they are BFFs, they always want to interact with you. They want to come back again. They want to buy your stuff again, buy your experience again. Those are BFFs. So BFFs is much more valuable than fans. So I'll talk a little bit about how do you do that through a social CRM program. But secondly, talking a lot about this, with folks here, and including Glenn this morning, we're talking about it. I think branding, all that stuff, exciting. I used to be in the creative agency and digital agency world. It's great feeling when you come up with these very creative ideas, this inspirational brand positioning. It's important, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I think most of you, your business wants to generate revenue, wants to generate profit. So it's more importantly, at the end of the day, how do you turn these people, whether it's fans or BFFs, into actually buyers, into actually consumers. So I'll talk a little bit more about, I think, a social media platform now like Weibo not only provides the platform of the engaging with the consumers, but also allow you to close the transaction. We start with the social CRM first. How do you turn fans into BFFs? First point I want to make is, again, I really want to get brands. I think brands really need to start thinking beyond just fans. Fans is such a broad term and concept. I don't think it has a lot of value anymore. So if you think about this, first of all, within your fans, the first group is what I call engaged fans. So if you look at your social media reports, or if you are tracking those things on yourself, by yourself, you can probably see, even though you have a lot of fans, not everybody is actively engaging with you. Some of them, they're probably fake fans. Some of you, if you know about China, you have heard the term of zombie fans. I think that obviously exists on the Sina Weibo platform. I have to speak louder now. But anyway, so the some are zombie fans, but I think they also exist on Facebook and Twitter as well. But these are the people who, some are robots who are fake fans. As a platform, we're actively cleaning and deleting these accounts on the ongoing basis, but that's only part of it. And a lot of the other fans, they're simply passive, inactive fans. They follow you, but as I said earlier, maybe they follow you because they were interested that day, and later on they found your content is not really that interesting, and they really don't want to follow you, interact with you anymore. Well, they didn't even bother to unfollow you, and they just stopped looking at your account and stopped looking at information. So a lot of brands, they're struggling when they look at the engagement metrics. They say, why they're so low engagements with our account? When I post something, why there are only a few people commenting and reposting it? So again, that's because you don't have a lot of these engaged fans. So engagement, the definition for engagement, I think also is going to get broadened quickly. So right now, the most common engagement on Sina Weibo, just like Twitter, is reposts and comments. But actually, as you can see later on, as we develop and provide more and more products to brands, the definition of engagement will expand significantly. Brands can launch advertisement on Weibo, so when people click on it, that's an engagement. You have your enterprise official account on Weibo, so when people come to browse your account, actively seeking information, that's an engagement. You can launch online events on Weibo. If people participate in that, play the game, that's an engagement. So, and obviously later on, if people can buy your product directly, that's an engagement as well. So first of all, I think it's important to identify who are those active fans within your fan base. So those are the people, are the engaged fans. I think knowing who these people are, I think it's important because you know who you can target more. I'll talk a little bit more about how you take actions on these things. But the second concept, the second group of people that I think a lot of times brands just totally overlook these people is what I call this right now is the engaged non-fans. And I told people I don't quite like this name yet. It's just so uncool, but I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of when you look at, you know who I mean. So these are the people who actually have interacted with your content, because remember, this is a social media platform. Right, so when you post something, not only your fans can see it, when they repost it, their fans can see it as well. Their fans can repost and comment on that as well. So this group of people, what I mean is they also reposted or commented to your content, even though they have not become your fans yet. That's actually not a small group of people. So we ran some stats across about 85 accounts, 85 business accounts across different industries. The average ratio between an engaged fan and engaged non-fans is 1:3, which means that every fans that you have within your fan base actually reposted or comment your content. On average, 3 other people, not your fans yet, will also not only see it, but also repost and comment on it. We're not even counting the impressions, right? So obviously the impression number will be a lot bigger than that as well. So that's actually a pretty significant number. And if we look across different industries, that number will vary pretty significantly as well. So like in automotive, I think it's 1 to 7. I think in travel, I think it's around 1 to 5. And so again, why I want to bring out this group of people is because these are the people who actually showed strong interest towards your brand already because they interact with it and they have not become your fans. So we can help you to find those people as well. I'm hearing more and more brands, the common need is better at targeting, more accurate, finding the people who are their target audience, interested brand. So I think that group of people you definitely should not overlook because they already interact with your brand content already. And the last group, obviously, is the what I call a potential target audience. So 500 million users, I doubt any business accounts have anywhere close to that potential target audience group that they can maximize on the platform. So the number one business account on Weibo right now is a 360buy. It's e-commerce site. They have about 2.5 million followers. So again, most of the business is probably only tens of thousands. If you have a couple 100,000 fans, that's considered a pretty successful account already. So first I again highlighted these 3 group of people. So how do you know them more holistically? So I think from the data perspective, we're providing a lot more information for you to know these people. Not only in a traditional sense of a CRM, you think about their phone numbers, their address, their purchase history, but in the social space, you can also know what they're interested in based on who they follow, what they talk about, their social graph, right? So again, that's the relationship, who are their friends, what's the social graph on the platform, and the social interactions. So this is what I mean by earlier, the engagement. So what did they do with your brand? So looking at all these numbers, all these metrics, all these data together, I think you get a much fuller picture of who these consumers are. So once you know these people, your next job is expand your engagement, because as I said, people follow multiple brands. Even though they follow your brand, they probably follow other brands as well. So what you want to do is actually get them to engage with your brand more. So through what kind of actions? I think, again, as I said, conversation is a starting point, but go beyond the conversation. Think about having actual engagement interactions, make them purchase. I'll talk about social commerce in a little bit. And then amplify all these interactions throughout their network, through their relationship, so creating the maximum effect. So next concept I want to share with you is, think these consumers in two-dimensional space. So the first one is a lot of the traditional CRM dimension. You think about how do you get these people to know your brand, from awareness to consideration to preference to purchase and probably loyalty. But I think in social space, why I think that's not enough, because there's another dimension, what I call a social role for your brand. We saw earlier some people are engaged fans, some people are not very active. So at least you can probably break them down into three groups. The passive participants, this is the probably majority of your fans are probably there are relatively passive. They're not going to actively create a lot of content, but they're to receive your message. It's still valuable. You want to get your message across. But then there's a second group of people, what I call active participants. These are the people who not only they will respond to your message, they probably also say things proactively for your brand, right? So I think, again, like if Sky City is here, like what I just did earlier, I they didn't ask me to say that, right? But I think, I had a good experience, and so I want to share that with others. And these kind of people exist because I also ran into another tour provider, I think, during this trip, and they told me they have 6,000 organized, 6,000 people, or 6,000, I think 6,000 tourists, and they had 0 complaints. So I said, what are you doing about that stats? Why are you only telling me? I think these 6,000 people, if they had a great experience, what kind of stories they're telling for your brand? Just think about how much they can more influence others. So, and these are the people, the active participants, they will probably share and tag and take pictures and at your brand, and they talk about what a great experience that was. So again, identifying these people is very important in terms of maximizing the impact of social media. And key influencer in the end, so again, the celebrity power is huge in China. So when I said earlier, the #1 business account only has 2.5 million followers, the #1 celebrity, which is also apparently the ambassador for New Zealand, the Queens of Weibo, Yao Chen, has over 40 million followers on Weibo. And so imagine what she says in terms of the influence on the regular consumers. So the point of thinking about consumers in these two-dimensional space is you can do different things. You can give them different assets. For passive participants, you want to communicate your message. But for active participants, for the key influencers, you want to invite them to special events. You want to give them more materials to talk about. And that's how you leverage these people. So I'll pick up space a little bit. So increase the share of engagement. I said earlier, they follow other brands. They follow other industries. We are providing tools and things like to help brands, not only their interaction with your brand, as well as their interaction with your competitors, so you can get a better idea, in terms of your target audience, who else they communicate with, who else they engage with, and think about your strategy. How do you increase the timeshare that you have with your customers? So very quickly, just to give you a sense, since you probably, not everybody uses Weibo daily, although next year when I come back, hopefully everybody has a Weibo account and you use that daily. So give you some screenshots, give you a sense of what kind of things actually you can do on Weibo. So these are mainly kind of the news feed, similar to the Twitter experience. But on Weibo now we can developing the capability of targeting your post to a specific group of people. So you no longer have to make one post that's visible for everyone. And you can actually segment your users and make certain posts to be visible for certain people only. We also have these one-on-one communication channels, private messages and notifications. So those are the people when you want to have a one-to-one communication, you want to spend a specific offer where somebody talk great things about your brand or complain about it, you can have a one-to-one communication with them, and that's also a CRM tool that we have. And then the customer experience, customized experience that provide deeper engagement on your Weibo account. So in terms of building apps and pages, and this is where I see a lot of potential. And what we're doing with Auckland Airport now is, yesterday doing a press release, as you can see, and one of the things what we're doing is we're creating an app for Auckland Airport, providing that deeper customer experience on the enterprise Weibo account. So again, more and more businesses are providing richer experience on their Weibo account now. So not only just what brands and people can do on Weibo, so we're becoming an open platform the open APIs were encouraging third parties to develop other assets and things like that can be connected with the platform and leverage the platform, leverage the social graph, leverage the platform to amplify your voice. So last section, I want to talk to you quickly about sales, about social commerce. So the first concept that we need to think about is the difference between driving traffic and direct sale. So driving traffic, a lot of brands are using that already. E-commerce also grows super fast in China right now. So on this chart, we're listing a lot of these e-commerce sites, including Tmall, which is the brand store for Taobao, and the Amazon and 360 Buy and all these different e-commerce platforms. So a lot of them, they're using Weibo as a traffic generation vehicle. So they make posts highlighting specific products with a short link back to the site. So again, any business you sell online, you can do that. So on average that we can see, the percentage here just means like, so for Tmall, the 2,328%, the percentage is kind of a weird way of showing this, but what it really means is over 20 clicks on average for each product link that they post on Weibo. So each product link is driving over 20 clicks, 20 potential leads and traffic to your site. So that's a big number in terms of how these e-commerce sites can leverage the platform and driving leads to their own site. Here's another example. I think it was in September last year. So 360 Buy, one of the major electronics online seller, they're challenging the other competitors in terms of our price guarantee, and their CEO actually started this challenge on Weibo. They say, on that day we're going to lower our prices, and if you find this, any of our competitors have a lower price, we'll give you we'll match the difference, and we'll also give you more money. So again, that topic actually generated a huge buzz on that day. So for that one single day, because of that buzz, because of that challenge, we saw 5 times increase of the traffic to their site. And again, the only thing that he did not buy any other media to promote this. The only thing they did was leveraging Weibo. So again, just through the topic, through the buzz, you can see how much traffic they can generate. And last but not least, from a traffic generation perspective, so November 11th is the Singles Day in China. It's a very sad day that if you're single. So apparently the right thing to do is to go shopping. And so Taobao has started this, turned this Singles Day into a shopping event. And last year was the second year they did it. And they, again, most of the Taobao stores, they will slash the price, offer deep discounts. So they actually delivered 19.1 billion RMB on that one single day. That's a ton of money. So we're asking their CEO how much interest that he's made on that. I think he's still counting how much interest he has actually made on that. But 25% of the traffic, so a quarter of those traffic who went to Taobao was from Weibo. So again, so no need to say how big an impact in terms from a traffic generation social media will have on your e-commerce business. But now, not only you can drive traffic, you can actually sell directly on Weibo now already. So I've been telling some people over the last couple of days, we launched the Weibo Pay online payment system, similar to PayPal in a Western society, very much the same. And we have multiple online payment system in China as well. So now Weibo has this Weibo Pay. It's automatically open for every single Weibo users. You don't need to open the account. It's already there. What you need to do is you can either bundle that with one of your credit cards, or you can go through a step of online payment. Very standard for all the online other payment systems in China. So not only people can pay, we're also developing this product what we call special content feed. So in the feeds, brands have the option no longer just posting words and pictures. You can also provide light interactives. So like for example, this one, you can show a couple of products. There's a button. People can click on the button and they can buy directly there. So they don't even have to jump to an e-commerce site. So that's another product that we already launched. And then associated with that, there's also digital loyalty cards, membership, and coupons. So, again, this through different ways, whether it's feeds or page or SMS and all that stuff, you can issue coupons to customers, and they can have that coupon, in their digital wallet, and then they can redeem that when they're in store. So So a couple of cases before I end this. So just give you some sense in terms of what brands are actually doing on the platform, utilizing some of the tools that I mentioned. So we have one of our third-party partners develop a hotel booking app. It's the first phase I think was free to use, but now I think they charge 20 RMB per transactions. So that's still pretty low fees for a lot of the hotels. So over 3,000 hotels have installed this app on their Weibo page. So now when you go to this hotel page, not only you can look at what they say, you can actually make a booking on their Weibo page. And the Air China, they use the Weibo to launch the campaign, asking people to name a new aircraft. Some other portals, again, this is third-party portals, third-party sites, travel-related, travel-focused, but they are leveraging the Weibo, as Weibo is the platform for people to talk about the trips, but they are allowing people to share and then curate those content from Weibo and then consolidate them into their own site in terms of sharing their travel experience. So this is another website in China. This is focusing on travel photo sharing. And then Tourism Board Canada, they actually also did a campaign and asking people who went to Canada and to share, and there's a contest, and so that's a pretty successful campaign as well. So when I talk about social commerce, just want to give you two examples. So Xiaomi smartphone, this is a smartphone that's a China-made smartphone similar to the iPhone. They actually launched their second generation of smartphone the end of last year. December 21st, supposed to be the end of the world. So Singles Day, you're supposed to shop, and end of the world, you're supposed to buy a phone, so in case you need to call people. They sold, exclusive launch, 50,000 phones only on Weibo, and sold out in 5 minutes, 14 seconds. But the main point here is not about the 50,000 phones they actually sold. And look at some other stats. Although everybody knows there was only 50,000 phones available, there were 13 million pre-orders. 13 million people want that phone. So 23.3 million reposts. So a lot of people are talking about this, 81,000 comments. And that brand increased their fan base by 1 million over 5 days. And I can pretty much guarantee you, in that 1 million, there's no zombie fans, because all these people submitted their real information, the telephone number, the address, because they want to get that phone. So think about what you can accomplish in terms of generating valuable customer insight, consumers' data, and real fans through this kind of social commerce stuff. The second example, not only can buy phones, you can also buy cars on Weibo. So 666 smart cars from Mercedes-Benz. This is also limited edition. It's a Weibo special edition car, Weibo coloring, special financing deals with other accessories, sold out in 8 hours. So 67,000 reposts and comments. I think they generate 6,000 leads through that campaign. So again, that leads is the most valuable assets that was generated for the brand. So again, like I just want to point out a few things. When we talk about social commerce, I think that's not the same thing as e-commerce. Not everything you put on an e-commerce store should be sold on Weibo. The things that can be most successful on Weibo is quality lifestyle products, special editions, limited editions, and that can help you to build a buzz. So one of the things I've been thinking about is, I've also heard a lot of capacity issues for a lot of New Zealand businesses, right? They have good stuff, but they don't have a lot. So how do you sell that to Chinese consumers when we have so many of them? And I think you can actually leverage that, because the point is not to sell thousands or hundreds of thousands. You actually want to sell very limited, exclusive product. Not everybody is going to get it, but a lot of people want it. So they might not get it today, but they know about your brand, and they have showed the interest. They've given you their information, and you can sell them again next time, next year, or later when you have more products. So to sum it up, I think, again, hopefully now you can see this is a powerful platform. So what brands are doing on this, how do you actually maximize your business value? Don't just do social advertising, although that's important. So talk to people, make your brand known. But more importantly, think about how to turn them into BFFs through social CRM, have ongoing communication and engagement with them. And at the end of the day, how do you sell? How do you realize the social commerce on this platform? So that's all I have to share with you today. Thank you very much.